Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Anywhere I showed up in the world, 100 people, a couple hundred people will show up, and bigger audience, be 700, 1,100, stuff like that. But they're coming to hear me be grumpy and talk about business things. They're not there to have a party, and it's not necessarily a party, but
they're not looking to escape. They're looking to elevate.
Yeah,
right?
You're
bringing a different context and quality. Yeah.
If you don't have $1 million yet, you're living a much lesser life than what could be easily available to you with the right guidance. My head coach has freed up a few spots in his calendar to hold one-on-one strategy calls with the highest quality applicants. If you're doing well already and you're looking to accelerate your momentum and do even better, click the link in the description now and apply for your strategy session. More at the end of this video.
Today I'm chatting with Tommy Vext, American patriot, platinum selling artist. Been an amazing singer, has been involved in several big bands. I know you were one of the founding members of Bad Wolf. I know you were with Five Finger Death Punch for a bit.
Yeah,
I know there's some other things going on there too. So
there's lots going on. Yeah.
Fill us in.
Oh, okay. Well, to start, most people know me from singing for a band called Bad Wolves. I was the primary hit songwriter for the first 2 records, founder of the band, brander of the band, and then people probably most recognize the cover of the Cranberry song Zombie, which I recorded and released in 2018, and then donated all of the proceeds, actually, when Dolores had passed away, to her children. So we started a trust fund. So whenever people buy the record or stream the record, the percentage that I would make actually goes to her children still. And so we've actually helped her 2 sons start their own business, and her daughters will be getting their trust fund when they get out of high school, when they turn 18.
That's amazing.
Yeah, very, very cool story.
I was actually just listening to that 15 minutes ago between interviews. We were just looking at your cover song from the Zombie song.
It's funny because I was just, we have a couple shows coming up, and I'm a solo artist now, and so I just booked shows for we're playing in Orlando. We're doing a benefit concert at the Dr. Phillips Center in Orlando for Once Upon a Coconut, which is a coconut water company that is raising funds and awareness. Tim Ballard from The Sound of Freedom is the keynote speaker, amongst many others. Charlie Rocket's involved, John Chiarondo. So it's super exciting. But I was in rehearsal and we heard Zombie in the other rehearsal room.
Yeah.
So my guitar player Mark grabbed the phone. I was like, yo, let's walk over and freak him out. So we came in and they're playing the song and they're like oh, I was like, good job, man. It was like a cover band, out here in Vegas. I forgot their names offhand, but they were very, very nice. And I'll be posting the video, but that's the song that everybody knows.
That's fun. They just know me for being grumpy on the internet, and I walk through an airport and they say, Moneyberg, don't stay poor.
Gotta inspire them, man.
Little one-liner, halfway insults or comments of inspiration, depending who takes the message.
That's true.
So that's what they shout at me if I go somewhere. But it sounds cool. Not as fun as being a platinum artist, maybe.
Well, it has its pros and its cons, right? You can't have a political opinion,
Yeah, without having a super deep political conversation. I've never been a super political person, but I think to myself, for instance, I was doing an interview a year and change ago, maybe 2 years ago now. It was either ABC or CBS. It was one of the major networks. And I did a lot of different media stuff, and maybe 60 or so pretty big publications, or some of the biggest business publications. So, and I'm just myself all the time. I don't really, if you see me in any environment, I'm the same person consistently. I don't pretend to be somebody that I'm not. So they asked me to do like an 8-10 minute piece, cool. And somewhere in there, the topic of political correctness comes up. And I just said that, and I didn't think it was controversial. I said, if a person that values political correctness over factual correctness, which just means reality, just simply means reality. Factual correctness is just reality. They deserve the terrible outcomes they're about to experience in life. That reality shouldn't be a controversial idea. So we do this, we finish that little clip, and then they ask, hey, do you want to reshoot it? And I'm like, is there a reason you'd like to reshoot it? And I said, well, I don't know if you want to include that, and I'm like, don't put it out if you don't want to. I don't care if you put it out, but it shouldn't be a controversial thing to talk about reality.
Yeah.
And I think that's caused, you and I have touched on this in a recent conversation, that when you go around the country or you go around the world and you see how, things are in America, which I think is still the greatest country in the world. I'm proud to be here. I know you're proud to be in this country and participating in the American economy and contributing, etc. Man, I love it here, and I think is a little is dangerous to have people thinking about delusional thoughts that reality should be controversial or hard work should be controversial or something. So.
Well, I think we've moved into there's been this imposition of a culture of feelings are more important than facts, right? And I'm somebody, I've been sober for 14 years. I was pretty heavy into drugs and alcohol. I was born a crack baby. My mother was a junkie, and I was abandoned at birth and adopted. And I struggled with substance abuse genetically for up until I was 27 years old and got clean. And one of the things that we were always told in the beginning was feelings aren't facts, because a lot of times, when someone who's addicted to anything, they get triggered to relapse by something that is maybe emotional or discomfort in nature. And one of the strongest sayings is feelings aren't facts, because it allows the person who is suffering to recognize that our emotions are kind of like clouds or weather. They pass, and not to make extreme decisions in periods where you're extremely emotional or upset. And there's been this weird culture of reversing that, and I don't really understand it. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know if it's a direct result of the internet, but there seems to be this this almost like an eclipse of an ideal world where nobody's ever rude to each other and people never get their feelings hurt and nothing's ever scary and nothing's ever bad and you don't have to work on yourself and that life should be easy and everything should be handed to you. This kind of birthday cake ideology, right? And that's like Trent Reznor has said this. He's like, everybody thinks it's a good idea to have birthday cake for dinner until everyone ends up with a stomach ache. And I think that what we're seeing is over time, this this pretending and sort of drama club painting over of the facts of life have made a lot of young adults and adult people incapable of dealing with the harsh realities of life in all aspects. And so it's been very fascinating to be someone who came from the street and had to earn my way to becoming a person that is useful and learning how to turn my usefulness into financial stability and success and becoming the breadwinner of my family and breaking family curses and breaking whether it be breaking out of poverty or breaking out of addiction. And so I just find it very peculiar and fascinating, this sort of fairy tale ideology, or I think they call it wokeness, I guess, but there's been it's like all different.
Brokenness? It's called brokenness?
Yeah, brokenness.
I think it has something to do with brokenness.
Yeah, so it's just very peculiar to me.
Yeah, my that's amazing to what you just said. I didn't know that aspect of your life. When I was a kid, my father was too busy for me when I was very young, and then he was in prison for 15 years for most of my childhood.
Wow.
Largest cocaine trafficker in my county's history at the time. He and my uncle both they were arrested at the same time. And so I get to go to school. I was 7 years old when they went to prison, and I get to go to school and have the kids say, my dad said about your dad, blah, those type of things. Mm-hmm. And my mom was obese, over 300 pounds. I was a fat kid because that was the type of environment that I was in. It was like my mom would beat my ass and say the filthiest things to me, and then give me food as like a makeup or reward mechanism. So yeah, I wasn't very happy with my childhood, and I had to think about if I was worried about my emotions instead of worrying about how do I make this better? What are the rational, logical steps I could do to make this better? I'd be a drug addict or something myself. If I just worried about my emotions and not thinking all right, this is pretty how do we fix this? You know,
Yeah.
what are the variables I have control over?
And I think there's a lot to be said for validating emotions within the confines of like your partner, your friends, your loved ones. But the world doesn't exist to validate the emotions of the individual. The world is going about its business, right? Like an antelope getting eaten by a lion. The lion's like, hey, are you having a good day today? Like, is it cool if I eat you? Right? The law of nature is, and the law of the jungle is like, kill or be killed, you know? And I think that we have sort of a lot, this new generation of Americans are traumatized by privilege. You know, you got people who are outside begging for spare change with an iPhone. Like, how do you have $1,000 phone? And then if you have a phone, how can you not learn to make money by just having your phone?
I've made tens of millions of dollars on my phone.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You know, so there are so many ways. You know, and it's like dude, imagine if I had an iPhone, and you know, when I was on the street, you know what I mean? I would have figured it out. You know, like listen, I used to smoke crack. You can figure out a way to get high, bro. Like, you know. But that's like a lot of people who get sober and go back into the business world, like you get high off the win, right? Because every time you win and every time you do something good, you're a little bit further away from that hell that you know, which I'm sure you realize and experience. And so, you know, this kind of, I don't know, it's just a very, very strange thing to see young people demanding that the world be changed on behalf of their feelings, which are not, they're fleeting, right? Like how I felt about the world when I was 19 was vastly different about how I felt about the world at 22. And it was vastly different from, you know, every couple years, if you should be evolving.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago, right? Some of the stuff that went on during the pandemic, you know, I learned who I really was. I learned who my real friends were because I started being very outspoken about certain things. And you saw how people reacted, and you saw how like the fear, the panic broadcast really co-opted a lot of really good-hearted people and terrified them. And then all of a sudden, you know, and that's a spirit of evil, is like when you can take even the most compassionate, loving, and tolerant people and turn them almost into, you know, into these kind of pitchfork Frankenstein hunting mobs. You know, and we lose our humanity when we do that.
I seen so many crazy things at that time that, and I have kind of mixed emotions about that era. That for a guy like me, the best thing that can happen for me financially is to have stock market crises after stock market crises where people are scared and panicked. It's the thing that I'm best trained at in life. It's the thing that, like, those are opportunities that I make very large amounts of money. And to put some context to that, in about, you know, a year and a half, 20 months, during that time, 2020 and 2021, I made about 42 million in additional profits. That's not like revenue. Like, I added 42 million to my net worth during that time, and I was doing good before then, but I multiplied my net worth.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, I look around the world and like, oh, like one of my favorite restaurants that I go to down the street, like the 20-year-old girl won't seat me there because I don't have a
face covering.
And I can't go back to that place because I'm like, my ancestors were Jews, and I'm not a religious person, but I think about that. Like, it helped me understand that part of like World War II history of how do you take like normal people, as you kind of touched on, and make them, you know, comply with kind of ridiculous, you know, rules or expectations. Well, that's all very cheery.
Anyway, gang, more importantly, well, it's a financial show. We're not going to talk about music. We could talk about music. I am developing an app company with my partners at Jadari, and Greg Anderson's the head guy over there. And most people don't realize that, you know, like, for example, I did 100 million streams in the last year, and I definitely did not make anything close to $100 million or even $1 million off of that, right? And Snoop Dogg's been talking about this too. He's like, how could I do 1 billion streams and not make $1 million? you know. Even Bad Wolves is a prime example. We have one music video on YouTube that generated over 507 million views. That's one video. The other videos are like 90 million, 50 million, 30 million, 20, and then it goes down, it goes down from there. Like you look at the Spotify numbers and the Pandora numbers, and you're like, where's the money? Where's the money? Right? So you have two blocks now where it's like the record labels deal directly with the major streaming companies. Neither are disclosing that they could just punch in keys and say whatever they want. So like, say you audited them and they were like, oh, I did 10 billion streams and you got to give me $10 million. They could hit a button and be like, oh, that was a mistake. Like, how are they actually counting? And there's no system of checks and balances with any of these streaming companies unless you want to go into a lawsuit that's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Just to find out maybe they lied or not, So what we're doing is we're creating a sort of social media streaming app for super fans, and every artist will be able to get their own and determine their own prices. Me particularly, it's 99 cents to download. And then inside the app, everyone will have their own profile, sort of like a Facebook, Instagram. And then the streaming library, the music library will be filled with all of my content, plus a new album that's not going to come out for another 6 months. So they can pay to get early listenership. They'll get access to all like meet and greet passes and stuff like that. There's all these bonuses that when I'm on tour, if you're a member of the fan group, you get X, Y, and Z, right? But the model is to, instead of me putting my record on Spotify and getting 100,000 streams a day and making like $5 from it, you could just buy my catalog inside the app for $9.99 a month, and it's a rolling charge. And then when the album comes out, it goes back to 99 cents. So you're paying for 6 months of exclusivity, but every 6 months I'll put out a new record. And then I'm also releasing my biography on the same app in chapters 6 months before the books will hit stores. So it's just like, and this is the thing, you don't need to have 100% of your audience involved in this. Like, probably, it would, to me, if I do 5,000 to 10,000 subscribers for this, that's fine. It's great, because that's $50,000 to $100,000 a month extra. That is way more than what Spotify. I'm almost potentially quadrupling my earns from Spotify and Deezer and Pandora and all of them combined. And then it creates a piggy bank for tour support. So now if I'm doing that successfully and I want to go on tour, well, 1 month of income will now pay for the tour bus and the crew. And now I call up a bunch of venues. I'm like, I want to do a free tour, but only for my fans who are subscribed to this thing. And inside the app, I can see, when people sign up, I know the cities where they live in. So I can route the tours and the shows and the meet and greets around where my super fans live and prioritize them because they're prioritizing me. So it's a really cool, it's like, as it's been, it started as a thought, an idea, and as it's developing, there's a lot of other bigger artists that I've been talking to that are very curious to see the launch and are like, ooh, this could be something. And again, it's like, it doesn't mean pulling off all the streaming platforms, because the other ones, they have massive reach because they have an accumulative fan listener base of tens of millions of people, because there's a million different artists on there. So it still serves its purpose, but the reality is that you can, make yourself, financially sound by offering early exclusivity, So we'll see how it goes.
I love the tour idea where if you have those meet and greets for those people, you create a significant connection with some of them that you can have a very sticky fan base there, where they'll continue to pay that monthly premium, and especially as you said, if you have, a record, if you release new content, a couple times a year, free tour or no free tour, but having the meet and greet element for the super fan group, and it can even be in a group context, But I think that's very powerful. I was involved in a business where we did two different types of events, and we did these public talks. Some people did them for free. I wanted the people to pay $10, and what I realized, if you're meeting an audience full of people that are interested in buying, they're interested in theory of spending time with you and coaching and having one-on-one attention or group attention to help them solve problems in their life, mostly business problems today. You could either make a cool video where you had a lot of people in the audience, and it looks cool for YouTube or something because there's 1,100 people in the audience, and we're in different contexts. So I know you have much bigger audience than I do in terms of people showing up, but
it's up and down.
Yeah,
we'll see. We're going post-cancel culture, so.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Anywhere I showed up in the world, 100 people, a couple hundred people will show up, and bigger audience, be 700, 1,100, stuff like that. But they're coming to hear me be grumpy and talk about business things. They're not there to have a party, and it's not necessarily a party, but
yeah, they're not looking to escape. They're looking to elevate.
Yeah,
right?
it's a different.
You're bringing a different
context.
context and quality. Yeah.
So if we did that for free, the amount of people that would sign up for a paid, to work with you in the future and pay you significant money, was much less, because you had a group of people that were less qualified group. They weren't that super fan group. Some of them were just like, they're going there for entertainment more than going there to be serious. If you charge $10, and the way that I thought about that is like, any teenage kid could find $10 in most any country in the world. Any teenage kid could come up with $10. So the $10 is not to collect money. It's like, that doesn't even pay for your conference rooms,
Yeah.
But it literally would get rid of 70% of the audience.
Yeah.
And the 30% that would show up gave us a lot of money.
More serious, yeah.
We turned that into a real business. That escalated the revenue a lot, helped me focus, helped give me a good filter that I could focus on people that were more serious and more dedicated. We could talk about things that are more in-depth when they did Q&A. Instead of asking me some silly shit, they asked things that were, like sincere
valuable,
and serious and valuable to the rest of the group.
It's interesting because it's such a different business model. Like when Bad Wolves went platinum, we literally blew up like within a month. We were like, holy shit. And I was off right away to Europe with my guitar player and an acoustic guitar, playing radio stations at 7 a.m. all over Europe. We're like, and then the song would just boom, 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 boom. Then we're like, played, the band flew out to Ireland. We did all this promo. We played the Late Late Show at Ryan Tuberty, and but as soon as that had taken off, we got offered opening slots on arena tours, so we'd be the first of 3 or 4, and everyone was getting there to see the song that they heard on the radio, and I would jump in the crowd at the end of this. We play Zombie last. I jump from the stage into the crowd in an arena with a security guard, and then walk to the merch booth. So I walked to merch and I'd take pictures with everybody for free, and whatever they bought, I'd sign it. And we started making like $30,000 a night. And everyone was like, So then all the other bands on the label would send out emails. They'd be like, they used to like, Tommy Vext did this, look, go do what he's doing, And I wasn't even CC'd on them. Like other people would be like, bro, they really love what you're doing, But I didn't do that for any other reason than I'm just an old school punk rock kid from CBGB's. And I was just like, the show, like I get off stage. Before I go on stage, I always pray and I say, God, please make this not about me, and let me say or do the thing that whatever person in the audience needs to hear today, let me be of service to them, right? And that's the vibe. So then I would take that off stage, and normally, 14, 15 years ago, and I've been singing since I was 14, I would get off stage and immediately reward myself with drugs and alcohol. So how I flipped it was to go out and be of service. What I did in intend on doing, which was happened, is I built this like army of people who like really connected with me and believed in what I believed in and appreciated. And so I think as an artist, I can't give these people financial advice. I'm not here to give them that. I'm here to, I write songs about the pain of my life and what I've been through because it subconsciously gives other people the ability to feel their own feelings through music. And that's what other artists that I was influenced did for me. And so it's very interesting to me, how that, because everybody wants to make money, but most people don't want to do what it takes to make money. So you have to filter them out.
The thing that you said that's there's a tremendous overlap between you and I is I found that very painful being poor. I hated that shit. I didn't like it when you're going to school and like, if you happen to make a friend at school and they're like, oh, I'll call you and we'll hang out later. And like, oh, like, I don't have a phone. My parents don't have enough money to pay the phone bill, shit like that. And I was very frustrated by that and kind of embarrassed,
It's very embarrassing.
And as an adult, I wanted to make sure there's plenty of resources for me, for my loved ones. And, the other piece of overlap is, for however you want to, I'm a selfish person. I don't trust somebody that tells me they're too altruistic. But, one of the best ways for me to get the things I want in life is to be able to help other people get even more.
Yeah.
And I think about that, like the best, for me to run a successful business, for me to have the things that I want to help my clients be very successful, like for a couple of reasons, because they can't pay me more money if they're broke.
Yeah.
But even more than that is like, the part of my personality that, is still a hurt child or some shit is just like, man, I don't want somebody else is willing to put in the work. I want to see them win.
You want them to have the same freedom.
Yeah, I want to see them win.
Yeah.
Maybe, and this is selfish in itself, the statement, which again, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but I'd really love to be the type of mentor that I wish I had when I was in that spot, I wish I had somebody that could help me that way. And because there's a lot of times I was willing to work hard, I was willing to do whatever was necessary, but there's nobody there to point me in the right direction, I didn't have like very good mentors or role models.
Yeah.
So the more altruistic part of my brain is like, I'd like to be that person for somebody else who's sincerely willing to put in the work, they're willing to learn, they're willing to work hard, they're willing to do the things that I don't do any get-rich-quick bullshit at all. Most people don't get super successful overnight. Most people are, overnight success might take 10 or 15 years of preparation.
I experienced that.
Yeah.
I went platinum at 36 years old. They're like, overnight success. I'm like, dude, I've been in 10 bands. I've been on 4 record labels. I've traveled around the world twice already. Like, I've been in a van down by the river, like I've done everything, every kind of tour, every kind of venue. And then you get to the big show. But that's another reason why you're grateful for it, right? When it hits, you're like, man, everyone should know what it feels like to feel this.
On the internet, if I grew up rich like you, I'd be like, man.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know who Mike Chandler is? He's a UFC guy.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Chandler, he's a nice guy. Mike Chandler was the 3-time champion at Bellator, and he's very talented. He's, I don't know, he's number 5 or something like that right now in his weight division at UFC. And he and I had a chat about this, that we were I was at his house, and then we were running around, and, at that time I had a Rolls-Royce Phantom running around in Miami with it. And so we were having a luxury moment together, but we both having a laugh at that situation is like, I didn't have food when I was a kid or something. And we were laughing about the overnight success shit that he's like, man, I've been an athlete every day for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And, I've been in the UFC for 1 year. He's like, I was, college wrestling champion, 3-time champion at Bellator, blah, blah, blah. And now more people knew who he was because of the spotlight of UFC. Yeah. And he's like, now they call that an overnight success. He's like, it only took me 20 years to be an overnight success. And I just said my version of it, same thing, is like, yeah, I only worked for 30 years and now we can run around in a Rolls Royce or do some baller shit. But
yeah, it's nice to get to that point too, but it's good to educate people that it doesn't come like the way they think, And I'm not lucky, but I'm grateful that when my success hit, there was already a trail of breadcrumbs. Like I already had catalogs out, so I'd already done all these other bands and all this other stuff for a long time. And it was, to me, what we were doing was like, it's last man standing. Like if you just hang in there and you keep fighting a good fight, it'll happen. Don't quit, you know? And that's really what it comes down to. Most people don't last long enough to make it, you know? And I'm not anywhere near where I want to be. I am the kind of person who, you know, my abstract thinking is I see a system and I see how the system serves itself and I'm like, I have to provide a solution. How can I get creative? And look, this is the thing. I understand the machine. If, you know, for whatever reason, if the app that we're doing, if this thing were to take off, it would get bought. Because the system does not want to create, you know, we don't have a free market anymore, right? Yeah. We're in a controlled market. And so once you start and that's why innovation dies in communism, because everyone with good ideas and everything that is creative and inventive and ingenuity, everything that moves human beings forward in progression is suffocated out because the system is what they protect the most. So they can't allow, you know, so, you know, there's in the back of the mind, the back of my mind is always like, they're going to try, like if this works, it's going to be short-lived because they will come and they will write the check to squash it, you know? But
I hear what you're saying.
If you're like that, if you have that kind of mindset and you understand the system, you just keep repeating the process and keep creating things that disrupt the system and sell the disruptive entity back to it. And that's another way to be okay.
And somebody that'll listen to this will be like, you know, why don't you take a stand and not sell the thing and, you know, don't be a sellout.
Well, I'll tell you why. I went through this.
I'll do it on your behalf if you don't mind. Or I suspect that, you know, well, if you don't do that, then they find ways to disrupt your technology, or you get. We had shit. You know, one time Vimeo, one time Vimeo on 24 hours notice says, oh, move all your content. Oh, you've been a 10-year client? Yeah, move all your content in the next 24 hours. We don't want to host your shit anymore. And there's a lot of different situations like that I've seen other people encounter that like they. If you don't want to play along with, you know, if you're too uncooperative with those systems, instead of getting the check, they just try to destroy your business.
Well, there's the monopoly is on information, right? Information war requires no proof. So if you're trying to empower, enable, or embolden the public, or educate the public to the truth, or put people in a position to better themselves, whether it be mentally, physically. Because look, healthy and financially solvent people are very hard to control, right? People with dignity, people who have high self-esteem. Like, you know, I've had, like I got canceled because I was right-leaning and I was outspoken politically in 2020. And, you know, I have affiliations with certain politicians and that's my life, right? You'll see me hanging out with a lot of people, right? But I got canceled for it because that's the culture that was created in Hollywood. So I experienced all the things that happen, whether it's like the phone calls start getting made, like radio stations not wanting to play my stuff, you know, people like. Maybe I'm getting shadow banned on things like Spotify. My Instagram was deleted. Then it took about $30,000 of investigation to find out that there was a financial hit put on my social media platform because my Instagram platform was more massive than all the competing artists in the genre and the media. I had more followers and more engagement than the actual. So the news was putting hit pieces out on me, but they couldn't compete with me posting the truth. So you know, and there were like lawsuits and all this stuff, and everything's at peace now. But it's a big, brutal fight. And if I had the foresight to understand how much of a web everything is connected to, I would have been like, whatever. I'm like, it's not worth it, because they own everything, and it's too late. It is absolutely too late. You cannot do business inside the machine if you are once they put the flag on you, like that's it. Which and the whole thing is just like, it's just so hilarious to me. There's this such a desperate attempt to like suffocate information, right? The internet used to be like, you go on the internet and there's all this information, and it's up to you to discern through your sources and your own intelligence what is real and is not real. Why would they take that away?
Yeah, it's sad. I've thought about that. You know, like the most free time in human history is, you know, maybe circa 2012 or something like that. You know, 2010, 2012, somewhere in that era. All those platforms were really quite liberating. You could have, maybe, you know, maximized freedom of human history was somewhere around that time, I think.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I'm grateful to have lived in that time. But yeah, I sometimes am concerned about the future. Let's talk about a fun band story. There's got to be.
Yeah.
I know you got a ton of them, but
a fun band story. Oh man.
One that
PG one.
I don't know. I don't want to ask you to say anything too crazy. I'll tell you one that stuck in my mind is there's maybe like a tough time in for a traveling band is you know David Draymond from
Yeah, of
Disturbed?
course.
Yeah,
Love David.
So we were having dinner, and David told me a story that early in his career he's opening for Marilyn Manson.
Oh, okay.
And he's still up and coming, and doesn't have the recognition that he got later in life. And he says it was so vile, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he said they were trying to do his thing, and people are spitting on him and throwing shit at him, and because that's just kind of that audience,
Oh, okay,
and he just kind of had to tough through that. And he's like, well, week after or show after show,
yeah.
with that particular audience, the type of people that band attracts, he's opening for them, and they gave him a tough time that way. And I'm like, man, that's like a lot of psychological perseverance that I would not enjoy getting on stage and having people fucking spit on me and throw shit at me.
I've never had that happen. But
good for you.
I did have Marilyn. We played with Marilyn Manson late, like in 2019.
Yeah.
We did a run of shows like around the holidays, like around Halloween, and we were direct support. And like, again, Manson at this time, I think he's doing a little bit better, but he had like broken his foot, and he was definitely on one. He was definitely on doing substances, and we were playing in like North Dakota or someplace, and the only two brothers in the whole state were like me and my guitar player Doc at the time, and Manson just assumed that we were the drug dealers, and he came to the dressing room and was trying to buy cocaine off my guitar player, and he's like, "Are you the cocaine dealer?" And he's like, "Nah, man, like I'm in Bad Wolves." And he's like, "What's a Bad Wolf?" He's like, "Well, we went on before you." He's like, "Oh, are you sure?" And I'm like, like I fit the description. It's like, yo, we're getting racially profiled by Marilyn Manson about selling drugs. I'm like, and at that time, I'm like, it's like, that's, I was like 11 years sober. Just like, what the f is going on here? But there's been tons of fun, like tons of kooky, wacky shit, I don't know. It's been a cool life. I had a 3-hour lunch with Scott Stapp from Creed in Nashville last year. We had a mutual friend, and Scott knew about me, and I'm like, obviously, I love Creed, and he's the coolest dude ever. There's been a lot of weird stuff, right? You could ask David about. I was on one of the Disturbed tours with Korn, and I was singing backup for In This Moment, and this was Music as a Weapon tour. This was before I had really done anything, so this was like a big arena tour, and I was just doing one song a night, a duet with a female vocalist, And I got, these ladies I met at a backstage party convinced me to, they wanted to go off and do whatever. And it happened to be like the production manager's dressing room, and I got caught. And it was just hilarious. David could tell you the whole story about it. He was just like, what the fuck? The next day, there were signs on everyone's dressing room.
Stay out.
It was a picture of me, and it said, warning, this man may be having sex in your dressing room. And I was just like, bro, you gotta be kidding me. But just that's like the fun stuff. That's like, that's a long time ago. We were younger. But we had fun.
David was in Chicago with his family, and I had Ho Gracie, who I think you know enough MMA stuff.
Yeah.
Hoist was staying with me, and he's a friend, and he's staying with me and training together in my gym over there. And so David's kid, they got him taking some jiu-jitsu classes, and he's spent a little time on it.
Yeah.
So the wife brings the kid over. They ask if, hey, can the kid come over and meet Hoist? And I never play show and tell with any of my friends like that,
Sure.
But I thought to myself, like, with these people, they're not going to do something weird or something. It's going to be fine, no problem. So I said, yeah, no problem, And so the kid comes over, and Hoist is asking him. I told Hoist that we're about to go train, but I said, just talk to the kid for a few minutes if you would. And he's happy to. He's a nice guy. He's happy to. And he says, oh, so I hear you're learning jiu-jitsu. And kid's like, yeah. He's young. He's a young little man. And he said, you got your first belt? How long you been training? He said, no, I'm just a white belt, 2 stripes. He's like, oh, you like it? And he's like, meh. And he kind of runs off and, just does young kid shit,
Yeah.
He come back a few minutes later, and Hoist kind of re-engaged with him, and so you think you're going to keep training? And he's like, why you keep talking about jiu-jitsu? Like, you a black belt or something? He's like, my instructor is a black belt, 5th degree. Hoist is like, oh.
He definitely gets it from his dad too. That's funny.
the mother,
Sam's so cute.
Lena, she's like, oh.
Yeah. She's.
I've never talked about this publicly before.
That's adorable.
So she's like, literally has like this, and I'm like, don't worry about it. And I said, hey, why don't you take a picture of the Hoist and the kid together, and maybe take that back to his instructor later. And so Hoist is like, okay. So she takes some photos of the two of them together, and
That's so
you
great.
imagine, the instructor for sure knows who this guy is, and it's like Jesus
oh my
of their
God,
sport, Yeah. So I thought it was hilarious.
That's amazing.
Of all the
Yeah, you
people-
never know who you're gonna know, right? Like, I had this happen. So when years ago, I did this charity stuff, and I met this guy Josh, and I lived in Venice. He was from Venice. We knew a bunch of the same people. Good dude. And we get lunch. Everybody would be like, hey man, like I'm like, what the fuck? Anyway, so like we go to the gym once in a while. We talk shit about life once in a while. And then I went to go see Avengers. And at the end of the movie, it's before the Infinity Wars. So they showed Thanos at the very end. And I'm a huge comic book nerd. Like I have the original print of the real Infinity comic book from like the 79 or 80 or something like that. I got tons of comics. And I was like, and I was with my roommate at the time in Santa Monica, and my roommate was like, yo dog, that looks like your homeboy that sounds like your homie from the gym. And I was like, oh, because we were like, yo, it's Thanos, because we're both comic nerds. We're like, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do Infinity Wars. Just after Ultron, we just, we knew. And I was having lunch with him the next day. So we're walking back from the theater, and I Google, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. And I like literally had been hanging out with Josh Brolin for like weeks, and I had no idea who he was. Right? No Country for Old Men. He was Brad in the Goonies. He was in Gangster Squad. He's been in so much shit. And then the next day I was like, bro, I'm pissed off at you. He's like, whoa, what's wrong, man? I was like, you didn't tell me you were basically the Darth Vader of the Marvel universe, dude. He's like, oh, you saw that? I was like, dude, he's like, I almost passed on that. I'm like, this is the biggest thing ever. Like, if you're a comic book nerd, like, this is it. And then sure than shit, Endgame was, I think, the biggest opening box office release of the history of film.
Wow.
So, yeah, and then we played. I remember that year, or when Endgame came out, was like 2019. We played the Hollywood Palladium with Papa Roach, and Josh came out and introduced me at the Hollywood Palladium, and the whole place was like, "Oh my God!" Like, holy shit, you know. It was awesome. Yeah, but it's like you don't, you know, you never know who you know. You know.
It's fun to have those little overlaps or mutual respect or admiration for each other with your boys. It's fun.
Yeah, man, it's a blessing.
Tell me about your upcoming tour.
It's only a few shows. So we got Orlando, Friday, September 15th at the Dr. Phillips Center, which is a benefit show. Tim Ballard from The Sound of Freedom is a keynote speaker there. Charlie Rocket will be speaking, John Chiarondo, Emily Hayden, and a host of others. And then we're playing in Vegas Sunday, September 17th at Area 15. So it's a pretty cool venue. It's like all the walls are LED. So we had already started sending the programming for like the light show and everything. It's kind of a 3D interactive experience. And then we will be at the Whiskey A Go-Go September 20th, Wednesday in LA.
Los Angeles, yeah.
Yeah, and then from there, we have a bunch of music video shoots, and then we will be ending up in Phoenix, Arizona, September 24th at the Marquee Theater. Actually, I think it's Tempe, not Phoenix, but they're right next to each other.
Gotcha. You got a big tour on the schedule in the future or something on the horizon?
Nothing I can talk about, but 2024, you might see me back on the big stage, out of the clubs doing the...
You hear to hear first.
Yeah.
He's got big plans for a tour.
We'll see. Hey, God willing, you know. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, new app, new album, new book. We're just staying busy.
Tell us the bullet points. Where do they find the new app, the new album, and the new book?
The app will be on the App Store. You know, it'll be compatible with iPhone, Android, whatever. And then the album will be on the app. The book will be on the app. And you can find me at TommyVextOfficial.com. I'm on TikTok at TommyIsVext. I'm on Instagram at TommyVext 2.0. I'm the most catfish fake profiled musician on the planet. There's like literally 1,000 fake Tommy Vexts, so make sure you get the count right. I don't have a private fan page. I talk to my fans. I'm not single. You can't. I'm not. I have had people. I had one woman call me on Instagram calls Christmas morning. I was in New York with my mother and my sister, and she was like, "Hey, are you coming to the hotel?" And I'm like, I only answered because it was Christmas. And I was like, I'm sorry, like, I don't know who you are. And she was like, oh my God. I was like, have you been talking to someone pretending to be me? Because this has happened before. And she's like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. I'm in Washington, D.C. at a hotel. I sent you $40,000 last night.
Wow.
I was like, what? And that's not the only one. When in 2019, I was in a public relationship and I was dating somebody who had millions of followers. And this woman flew to LAX and was waiting for me at the airport. And her sister had like messaged me, like I got a hate message. I'm like, I'm sorry, who are you? And she was like, I'm so-and-so's sister, and like Marjorie. I was like, ma'am, I don't know any Marjorie. And then they called me on the internet and were like, so this has happened multiple times. Wow. I had a guy threaten to kill me. I was like, why? He's like, you're sleeping with my wife. I was like, buddy. And then he sent me a picture of his wife, and I was like, bro, like, that's all you, bro. Like, I don't know who you, like,
you're safe.
And I had to, this is the thing, I hate cheating and I hate all that, and they had a family and I don't like that. So I called them and I went on FaceTime and I was like, I have no idea who you are. I was like, you shouldn't be. And she had given them $10,000 of their family savings, and these are not wealthy people, right? So the internet, like, I have a few people who are public figures that we've all gone through this, and these catfish, they literally go on the internet, make fake profiles, strike up conversations with people, and these people fall for it. And then they basically groom you for 6 to 9 months and then create like a catastrophe that you need to send them money, and they do it.
You know, in my life, I have people, you know, I have a few million followers, almost 4.2 on Instagram and a few 100,000 here and there. And yeah, people make fake accounts. I try to get them taken down as quick as I can, but people make fake accounts, and they want to. It's exactly what you said. It was like, oh, there's a fan page, or it's my private page where I write fans to blah blah blah, and I'm like,
there's no such thing.
I don't.
Nobody
either.
has that. Yeah,
No.
You're not dating Beyonce. You know,
Sorry to break it
it's
to you.
like you don't have a date with Lady Gaga. It's not happening. You know, like it's so wild to me.
People try to get them to send money to, you know, random accounts and shit. And say,
Yeah.
you know, oh, half price, blah blah blah, and you know, probably people do it on occasion, which is unfortunate, but it's not my pages, man.
I had called a PI and I had a buddy who was an FBI agent, and I was like, what can be done about this? And they're like, honestly, nothing. So it's on the person. It's your personal responsibility to vet who you're sending money to, because they can't even convict. What are they going to convict you of? Being a good actor? You're like, oh, this person pretended to do this. It's like, well, first of all, you're never going to find the person.
Yeah.
They used all these different IP addresses. I've tried to track down the numbers. Sometimes it's in Israel, sometimes it's in Australia, you never know. It could be Arizona, you know, and then where are those IP addresses versus where those people actually are? They're master manipulators. It's a full-time job for them. It's wild.
So our final public service announcement today is don't fall for those things.
Don't fall for catfishing.
I only have I have one account. He has his account.
That's it.
Most other people are this way too. Don't fall for this. Don't do that to yourself. Man, thanks for sharing a few stories and having a couple laughs together. I appreciate you coming through.
Thanks for having me, man.
Is very thoughtful. I think a common thing between the two of us, like I like to help people that want to help themselves.
Amen.
I had a lot of frustration early in life, and if I could help somebody do better and avoid some of those frustrations, I feel great about that. And I think it's great that, you know, the story, your background and your story, to turn that around and, you know, help other people manage their emotions better, think more clearly, and have fun, have a great experience while you're doing it is amazing. And I'm glad you've been very successful and able to help people at the same time. That's super cool, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
Thanks so
it.
much for coming through.
Thanks for having me. All right.
You watch this video all the way through, and that tells me you're dedicated to learning more and earning far above average outcomes in your life. Congratulations for that. But now it's time to take action. If you could have earned those results by yourself, you would have done it already. My head coach has opened up a few spots on his high-demand calendar for an in-person, one-on-one strategy session to help you. On this call, we'll give you the pragmatic advice that you can implement tonight to get laser-focused on the right metrics and leave mediocrity far behind in your past. Click that link right now in the description below and apply for your call immediately. Do it now.